Hello, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. We are always happy to have you join us in our efforts to learn more about the innovative, educational, and entrepreneurial ways that people are making a difference around the world and improving the lives of others. And this morning, we are recording a message from Jeremy Anderson, and I am very excited to have him here with us. He is a popular educational motivational speaker and is doing work around the world to help all sorts of folks, students and teachers and leaders live their lives to the next level, shall we say. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about his background and his work. And with that, I will hand it over to Jeremy. Jeremy, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rustin. I'm excited to be here. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good, good, good. Hey, thanks for giving me a chance to kind of share a bit of my story and what I do, and I think more importantly, why I do it. It's funny. I travel all over and speak, and people kind of see this person, or they have this perception, and I'm really just a regular guy that have overcome some really amazing odds. I started off being young. I was a biological father, has never been in my life. Mom had me when she was 16 years old, diagnosed with ADHD, other learning issues, drug and alcohol abuse, just young, dumb, trying to figure it out, extremely broken, and just kind of felt like I was stuck, and went to several different schools, moved around from Texas to New Jersey to Georgia, Alabama. And in the 8th grade, I had a teacher tell me that I wasn't high school material. Now, I've heard of teachers say, hey, you're not college material. Maybe you won't go to Harvard or Yale. But I've never heard a teacher tell a student that they weren't going to make it in high school. And unfortunately, I went to school kind of with that stigma. First school, and I'm going to 9th grade, kicked me out. Second school I went to, I failed. I went to 3 different schools for the 9th grade. And eventually I came across a group of teachers that I would say now are interesting, but at the time I felt like they were weird because they were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, we believe in you. It's like, really? They were saying things to me like, I'm so glad you're in my class. And I couldn't explain it, but I began to feel my worth and my value rise. I'm thinking like, you mean like this Jeremy Anderson, right? They're like, yeah, I read your file. I'm like, okay, so you've heard about all the issues. They were like, nope, but I'm glad you're here. This is a new year, new season. And it really began to shift some things within me. And I don't know how to say it, but I feel like they spoke life to me. This book I read, it talks a lot about, the power of the tongue and how life and death is in the power of the tongue. So what you say can make someone feel really, really great, or it can make them feel not so great. And they spoke life to me, and I began to believe it, and I began to receive it. And though it was a lot of the same things that my mother told me, it began to pierce me a lot differently because I kind of felt like, they echoed what she was saying. So I said, maybe I do have worth. Like maybe I do have value. And I took summer school, I took night courses, and as opposed to just trying to get by and be average, aiming for a 70, I began to shoot for 100. So when I go to schools now, when I speak, I let the students know the importance of them increasing and raising the level of their expectations. Because I felt like I was a mistake and I didn't have much worth or value. I wasn't trying to be phenomenal or smart or excellent. I was just trying to be average. I was just trying to fit in. So I would shoot for a 70. And if I fell short, I'll land with a 62 or a 58 or a 47. But when I recognized that my life did have worth and that I was valuable and there was a purpose for my existence, I began to shoot for 100. Now if I fall short, I might land with a 91 or an 86 or a 72. And so my grades began to shift and my mindset began to shift. And I eventually graduated from high school on time. The first school that kicked me out accepted me back, and I ended up being a part of the student government. Like, never thought I had leadership skills. Now I'm at my high school graduation. I tell my mom, I want to go to college. Then I go on and I get my bachelor's degree in social work because I wanted to make an impact in the lives of people. And then I eventually went on and received my master's degree, and just never thought I'd be experiencing these things. So bounced back in high school, went on to college, got a master's. Then I began to work in corporate America, making some really good money for myself. Didn't necessarily work in the field that I was trained in, but one opportunity leads to another, and people recognize you have a gift in sales, and you move up in insurance and investments, and working with a technology school. And now I'm making 6 figures. Me and my wife are financially combined, doing really well. She worked for NASA. For Jacobs ESTS, one of the defense contractors. We had just built a home, hardwood floors, granite countertops, like everything is just perfect. And I go to a school one day just to volunteer my time, and I speak at a middle school, and I share my story. And the little girl comes up to me afterwards. The kids are high-fiving me and shaking my hands, and we're taking selfies. And the little girl, red hair with freckles, she comes and she says, "Hey, Jeremy, you saved my life." Now, I'm thinking like, okay, it wasn't that powerful of a speech, But she's like, I was gonna go home and commit suicide, but I heard your story, and because of what you went through, and to see how you're being successful, maybe things for me aren't so bad. And so she was like, I now want to live, and that did something to me. I went home that evening. I told my wife, I said, honey, I think I'm in the wrong field. Maybe I'm supposed to like write books and travel and speak. And to make a long story short, she was like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to walk away from my career also and manage you. And we're going to build this educational, motivational empire together. Now, at the time, I was like, because I was hoping that she would continue to work, so that, in case things were rocky, we don't lose the house and the cars. But she was like, no, in order for us to go to the next level, we've got to go all in, walk away from our careers. And that's where the sacrifice really kicked in. First, the goal was the savings account. Then we had to tap into our 401k. Then we had to tap into our retirement. And right when the well was dry, the phones started ringing. And I started going from the East Coast to the West Coast, South Africa, India, Australia. I mean, I've been to Australia probably 3 times in the past, year and a half speaking. In South Africa, probably 5, 6 times. It's just crazy, just going all these different places, speaking for churches and nonprofit organizations and schools and universities and corporate events. And it's just blowing my mind how things just kind of exploded. And so we went all in. And so today, I get really excited when I get to partner now with schools. So I do a lot of different work in different fields, but one of my biggest passions is the educational system. And it's twofold for me. I kind of view the classroom, the relationship between students and teachers, kind of like a marriage. If me and my wife go to get marriage counseling, it's going to be successful if both of us are getting counseling. But if I show up and meet with a counselor and my wife doesn't, or vice versa, it's only so far the relationship can go. So for years, I was speaking at schools and I was pouring into the students and giving them messages and everything was great. I saw that the teachers were suffering because the reality is they're overworked and underpaid. They're tired. Many of them are suffering from depression silently. They're dealing with some PTSD because they've been physically harmed by students and they've got their own brokenness. They can experience issues in their marriage. They can experience financial constraints. They can get that diagnosis from the doctor. But they show up to school every single day to give the students the absolute best that they have within them. So I believe that we'll have a healthy classroom when we have healthy teachers. And so I've been privileged to work with teachers all over the country, really helping them take their classroom to the next level by them taking their personal lives to the next level, and then I have a good time and I get to work with the students to let them know, I don't care if you come from, a really affluent background and your parents make great money and you drive a car nicer than your teacher, they still deal with brokenness. They're still cutting themselves. They still are depressed. The opiate addiction in our country it's out of control. And so there's still a void there. And then you go to some inner city schools, where the cycle and their families and their financial conditions will continue if the young people don't really value education. So I share my story and I show them how to shift their mindset, how to really begin to value education and how they can take their lives to the next level. And I can't tell you how many schools I've been to where I've asked the students, if your mother or father is not in your life, raise your hand, and you'll be surprised how many hands go up. And many of them feel like, well, because my mom's a failure, my dad is locked up, or because my mom gave me up for abortion, because she was struggling with meth. Like, you don't know their story. So I'm helping the students to forgive and to let go and not to judge, but also to recognize that your DNA doesn't determine your destiny. Your decisions do. And so often we put so much focus and attention into our surroundings. But if we can look at the surroundings of our brain, the physical surroundings don't really matter. You can be enslaved, as Nelson Mandela said, in prison, but be mentally free. And so I'm trying to help these students see that, okay, the background you come from is rocky and it's unfortunate, but that doesn't mean that your life has to go down that same path. So I tie them back into STEM. I tie them back into technology. I tie them back into education and how they can take ownership and they can determine where the future goes. So It's been an amazing ride just to see how this has progressed, and I'm able to really share a lot of my failures, because a lot of times as motivational speakers, or influencers, just like, this is what I've done and this is where I am, but they don't really share, hey, this is what I struggle with, and I know that you're hurting. And so, I apologize to the kids, because many of them, they're sitting in the auditorium, and the reality is a large percentage of them have been hurt, and they've been abused physically and emotionally and sexually. And these kids have all these things going through their brain, and they're just trying to figure life out. And some of them haven't even had a quality meal, but they're expected for their brains to be sharp and sit still in the classroom. And so it's weird, because I feel like the students are climbing an uphill battle just as well as the teachers, because the teachers have been given a very basic curriculum. But the reality is, you got 20 different kids in the classroom. Many of them come from different socioeconomical backgrounds. And on top of that, they've got different learning styles, different personalities, but they're all expected to sit still, in addition to the life that they have going on and the stuff that they're constantly battling. And the teachers often as well are dealing with their own struggles and trying to figure things out. So, I've been privileged to travel some amazing places and stand on some amazing platforms. And I'm humbled to see the position I'm in, to see all the stuff that I've had to go through, all the mistakes I've made, but I've been able to experience grace. And I have another opportunity now to let people know it does get better. And though life is hard now, you can't give up. So I'm excited about what's happening with the schools. I'm excited to be traveling and speaking life. And the best compliment I can get is after I do a keynote for, educators or teachers, or I just got done speaking at their convocation, and the educator says, "Hey, Jeremy, thank you for what you do. I look at my students differently now." That is like touchdown, Tom Brady, kick the field goal for the extra point. I feel so great when they say, "I get it." When they can look at their most troubled student that drives them crazy and see potential in them. Now I know I've done my job, because I came across a bunch of teachers. They weren't bad people. They were just tired, and they were probably stressed, and they were probably limited in dealing with a student like me, diagnosed with ADHD and all these other issues, and so they were limited with the love that they could show me. But I came across a group of teachers who I feel were battle ready. They were battle tested. And they said, "You know what, we're not giving up on you. We might not have the latest technology, and we might not have the biggest classroom and the biggest budget," but they had a really big heart. And they took time to speak to my heart and to pour into me. And so I show educators the value of really working with those students. And I show students the value of working with those educators, so that they can become next level students and the teachers can become next level teachers. And so that's just a bit of my story. I could go on and on and on, but me and my wife, we've got a nonprofit, Next Level Living, here in the United States. We've also got an NPO in South Africa. And I've been able to do some really amazing things. And I feel like I'm just getting started. So that's kind of a bit of who I am and why I do what I do and what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. Jeremy, that's fantastic stuff. And man, a whole raft of questions for you, but
okay.
But just to get started, we talk about this. I mean, I'm in the educational space myself, and and so your stories are certainly kind of striking chords with me. But the message is about taking your work to the next level and understanding the brokenness inside of you and things like that. That's not limited to educational audiences. I'm guessing that you speak to quite a few audiences, yeah?
Yeah. I've done work with corporate. I've done work with. I used to be the chaplain for the NBA Referee Association. So all the referees in the NBA, I guess if we thought about it, we would realize this, but they're dealing with some extreme depression, because they're coaching these games and they've got the biggest names in the world, and if they call a wrong call by reffing the game, it's a lot that they have to deal with. So I work with them, and I work with a lot of marriages and a lot of faith-based organizations. So yeah, I do a lot, in and outside of the educational realm. And so the concept of next level living is first awareness, recognizing first, okay, this is where I am. Because if you don't first recognize where you are, you can't decide where you're going to go in the future. So I think there's something powerful about being honest and saying, you know what, maybe I'm not the best husband. Maybe I'm not the best teacher. Maybe I'm not the best manager. Or maybe I'm not the best boss. Or maybe I'm not the best dad, and recognizing where you are, and then asking yourself, can I get better? And the obvious answer is yes, because the human brain, like that's how we do. We naturally adapt, we grow, we evolve. And so the next step now was saying, okay, am I willing to take the necessary steps to grow? And so, yeah, the concept of next level living is one that can transcend all industries and boundaries. I mean, so let me be personal with you. You know, me and my wife for years have been experiencing going through marriage counseling, you know, and people say, oh, Jeremy, what's wrong? It's probably you're traveling. And I'm like, no, it's not the travel. Me and my wife are just two different people. We come from two different worlds. And after a while, things can get weird and things can get stagnant. Then when you're building a company, you got the financial concern. It's just a lot. And so I'm like, I don't want to tell people, go to the next level and go to the next level, but I'm not trying to pursue it myself. So it was my idea to say, hey, honey, let's get some marriage counseling. Let's get stronger. Because if you and I, we both own vehicles, you know, we take our vehicle from time to time to get maintenance. It's not because it's a bad, you know, Ford Expedition or a bad Lexus. No, you want to maintain it. And so the fabric of next level living is saying, hey, how can we get better? How can we get sharper? How can we get stronger? So me and my wife have been experiencing some amazing results through the years in marriage counseling. It's mind blowing to see where we are now. But I had to first realize, hey, this is okay, but can it be better? You know, and so I think that's the concept of next level living. Always grateful, but never settle. I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful for the life that's inside my body, but I will not settle because I believe there's more than I can experience and accomplish. And so even myself last year, you know, I went several times to go see my own personal counselor. I'm not hearing voices. I'm not going crazy. I just want to make sure I'm the best version I can be because I pour out so much to so many people. I needed it. It was healthy for me to have someone that I could sit down with that can now pour back into me, that can really search my heart to make sure that my heart's in a healthy place. Because if I'm not any good, then the people that I speak to won't be any good. So it's important for me to do a lot of self-reflection. So next level living is always grateful, never settle. And I believe wherever we are in life or whatever we are in our career fields or industries, if we can say, you know what, I'm doing pretty good now, but can I do more? Can I have a greater impact? Can I be a better father, a better husband, a better manager, a better employee, a better teacher, a better administrator? Can I do more? Can I experience more? And if the answer is yes, then we've got to be bold enough to put in the work.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like two major themes running through your messages. One is pressures, right? We all face pressures. You know, there are things that work against our being able to be not simply satisfied, but hopeful. You know, and the other is humility, right? You know, kind of that sense of you know, understanding that there's room for improvement. And one of the things I'll ask teachers when I'm speaking is, who in this room is so good at what you do that there is no earthly way you could improve, right? And of course, no hands, people chuckle, right? You know, but that's that thing, you know, understanding that you can get better, and often that it's the little things that get you there, right?
Yeah.
There are actually several people in our club who speak, you know, and they do that professionally. They do that in a variety of audiences. You know, we have folks who regularly travel in order to talk to different folks, and so when you think about the different audiences that you have addressed, are there audiences that have surprised you in some way with differences in how they react to your message, or different kinds of things that they've asked or told you, you know, related to some of the things that you brought to the table?
Yeah, I'll give you two brief examples. When I was in Bangalore, India, I was speaking and pouring my heart out, and the people were silent. I didn't get a head nod. They were just looking at me in the back of my mind, because I still got a little ADD. I'll be everywhere, you know. So the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, they're not like really feeling the message. And then afterwards, it took like almost 2 hours for me to get out of there, because everyone wanted to come up and shake my hand and take pictures and say, thank you so much for the message. It changed my life, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking like, but you were so quiet. And so our handlers, who basically took us around and took care of us and did a lot of the interpreting, they were like, oh no, here in India, like we showed support and reverence by being quiet and silent. And I was like, wow, like they weren't laughing at my jokes or anything. So that took me for a surprise and a shock. And the second example I could give you, I was doing some work at a school, and I was telling the teachers, you know, the importance of, when it comes to education, reaching some students, and how some students need more attention than others. And there was a teacher there in the audience that was very combative. And she did not like the idea of not treating all the kids the same. And so I said, look, we want to show all of them love, and they're all created equal. I said, but the reality is if I cut my finger and I need stitches and I go to the hospital, well, if you broke your leg, they're going to see you before they see me, because they, there's, your situation is much more extreme. So I have had situations during Q&A where they throw me for a curveball and they want to challenge the theories or some of the ideas that I have, but I welcome that. And I think it's healthy. And even as a speaker, I've had some times where I'll say, you know what? I don't know. And I think there's power there. Like you said, with humility, it's okay with saying, I don't know. I haven't done enough research on that. Let me get your email and get back to you. Or here's my opinion based off limited knowledge that I have on this topic. And so I think there's a lot of value there. So those are just two things of some conflict or some surprises or things that caught me off guard as I've been speaking publicly.
The one of the things about our eClub is that while it's the eClub of Silicon Valley, and a lot of our members are right here in Northern California, we have members all over the world, including South Africa, for example.
Yeah.
And I know that for me, traveling is one of those things that allows me to really see myself in new ways. To really stop and say, wow, that's there's an assumption I had that this is how things work or whatever, and then people do things totally differently, and you're like, I learned something from that. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your work in South Africa. I mean, what's the focus been with the audiences there? Setting up the NPO. How I'm curious, actually, even from a business perspective, how did that differ from how you got things going? while you were getting your business started here.
Yeah. So I went there to speak for a youth conference in 2015 or 16, and the response there was overwhelming. And someone there, I was in Johannesburg, and this lady there said, hey, you've got to come to Cape Town. Our people in Cape Town need to hear this message. So maybe 6 months later, I flew to Cape Town, South Africa, and I spoke there in Cape Town. And they were like, hey, we need you here like full time. And I'm like, well, I can't just move to South Africa. Though my wife loved the idea, I was like, I'm not too sure about that just yet. We're building so much here in the States. So then I ended up going back, and then I met with some of the leaders with some of the local organizations and churches, and they said, hey, the influence that you have, the momentum that we have, we would like to have an impact in our communities. We would like to have an impact in the local schools, and so in the lives of our young people, because they're struggling with drug and alcohol abuse and depression and suicide, and just like they are here in the States. That's one thing I've noticed across the globe. It might be packaged differently, but all of our struggles and issues are really the same. And so yeah, we just been going back and forth. And so, we've got a clothing line, Next Level Living clothing company. So we sent them the designs. They got like probably a group of 200 people in the organization. So they're wearing the t-shirts, they're doing fundraisers, and there are several different flats in Cape Town flats, the Cape Flats, that's what, as they call it, who are impoverished. I mean, the kids, no shoes, just sickness. And they're doing health screenings every month. They're feeding them. They're clothing them. It's just a lot that they're doing. So every month, that's something that we do. And so me and my wife, we have personally been funding it. And so we knew in order for the work there to go farther, we need to put together our NPO, because our nonprofit here in the States is funding it. But my thing is, if I can set them up and they have their own NPO, now they can work with Coke and some of the other prominent companies there, and then they can begin to kind of self-sustain itself. So that's kind of how things evolved there. It was really an accident, and I met with some of their leaders, and they said, hey, our young people in our community need this, and so we want to have something go on long-lasting. And so that's kind of how that evolved.
That's very cool. Well, if you get back to Cape Town, you're going to have to meet up with Richard, our member down there. He
okay.
Work he does with his school, I mean, the kinds of things that those kids are making happen, it's inspiring to see. It really is.
Wow. Awesome.
So speaking of getting around, there I know that your time is valuable, and we're also kind of running towards the end of our half hour, but I do want to ask one more question before we wind things down. So it was particularly intriguing to me that your wife responded to your ideas with the, I'll join you. Let's both leave our jobs. And you're like, woo, right? And so in looking at that, right, and you think about what it means to work together professionally, what do you feel like you've learned from that piece of it as well? Because I mean, when I stepped away to start my nonprofit, my wife stayed with her job, and that was a safety net for us, right? But I can imagine that there's all sorts of interesting things you guys have learned about each other as a result of working together on the Next Level Living project.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot about marriage and really my faith as a whole, through the experience. And I would have preferred that she continued to work so we could have been comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that in every next level of life, in order for you to accomplish and move on to the next level, you've got to experience and embrace a certain level of discomfort. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the power of growth is. And so I was not excited that she was willing to walk away from her career, knowing that she has a bachelor's in finance and a bachelor's in marketing and an MBA, and I'm like, you're going to walk away from all of that. You went to school for all these years to follow my vision and dreams. So though it was humbling, it was stretching because we are two different, people. She's a Taurus, I'm a Leo. She's an introvert, I'm an extrovert, two different worlds. And so, I kind of had the mindset that says, well, this is going to have to work. We said till death do us part. So I'll decrease, I'll deny myself. I'll say, okay, what do you think is best? I'll have to humble myself and then really begin to shift things. And I really realized, wow, my wife is smart. She's sharp in everything that I'm not, she is. And so it's actually a good thing that we're the opposites, because when it comes to budgeting and financing, that's her gift. So now when the checks come in, I sign them, I deposit them, and she manages everything. I mean, even to the point where I'm like, hey, all right, what card do I get to go get gas? And hey, I'm about to make this purchase. Should I use this card? And she's got everything paced. I mean, putting aside money for taxes, putting aside money for the nonprofit, the money that we give away to charities, bills, paying off. She handles everything. So I've learned to honor her and say, hey, this is your strength. Saying this is my weakness. Okay, this is my strength. That's your weakness. Let's work together as a team. So we had kind of been freed from that competitive spirit. I'm just saying, you know what? Look, we're working together. What's the mission on hand? And now to see where we are in life now, it's encouraging because it's like we're on the other side. Mm-hmm. But we had to go through that period. And that's why I said, okay, while I'm building this, I don't want to build this, but then my marriage failed. So, whenever they look at some of the great athletes, especially basketball players, for instance, they play offense and defense, so I don't want to just score a bunch of points, but my defense isn't good and I'm having a bunch of turnovers. I want to have in life a triple double. So I don't want to just have a good credit score and build a good company. I want to also have a good marriage score. So I would hate to be in front of 10,000 people speaking, but then my wife is on the audience and says, I wish he was like this at home. Mm-hmm. So when I'm home, to keep my heart pure, to keep my message pure, I'm washing dishes. I'll do laundry. I'll take care of my daughter and help out here or there. I'm not too big to do those things. And it shows my wife, hey, we're in this thing together. So those are just some of the things that I learned, because I was a knucklehead even when she came into my life. But I've learned to say, hey, we're going to figure this thing out together. And communication has been key. And the counseling has been the very thing that's helped us do that, because we weren't seeing eye to eye. But when we got the counseling, that helped her understand me more and me understand her more. And I think that's why we're winning in this season.
Well, I think when you think in terms of figuring out what it takes to get better, I think that has a lot of nice possibilities for your personal life as well, for sure. That's very cool.
Definitely. Yeah.
So to all of our guests and our members, thank you very much for joining us this week. It is always good to be able to share these kinds of messages. Send you away with some inspiration about how to approach to things in different ways. We hope that you are thinking in terms of ways that you might be able to get out and make a difference in the lives of the people around you. There are always opportunities, small and large, to get involved in great efforts that are out there. You heard Jeremy talking about how did all this go set in motion for him? He was volunteering at a school, and those kinds of things are the things that make us the kind of people that we need to be. That's how we see life as Rotarians. So with that, I ask you to do two things. A little farther down the page, you're going to see our attendance piece there. Make sure to let us know you're there. Even if you're a guest, just let us know. It helps us figure out how to make our meetings and our club be the best it can be. We're always striving to improve ourselves. And then a little farther down than that, you'll see the discuss section. And that is a place for you to be able to leave comments about the program and about the meeting as a whole, to respond to what other people have put there. And we're always happy to hear from you. As we do every week, I like to give our speaker the last word. And so, Jeremy, as we finish things up, what would be like the core message to send people away with?
Rushton, I would probably say, as we pursue next level living, to be the absolute best versions of ourselves, as we have that mindset, always grateful but never settle. I think that if we put that same mindset in relationships and being okay with being uncomfortable, it seems today that our country, unfortunately, it just seems like there's so much division. And I can't explain it to you, but here lately, I've been on this inquisitive journey of just inquiring about people's stories.
Mm.
So every week that I'm in the airport, I see different people and I wonder where they're going. I wonder how the upbringing was. I wonder what their family life was like. You know, I wonder those things. And so I'm now engaging, having different conversations with people that I typically would not be able maybe to connect with, or I might think I have nothing in common. And I find that I have so many more things in common. So I think one of the pure things of next level living is being uncomfortable to say, you know what, I want to understand you more. Because the more I understand you, the more we can understand this thing called humanity. And I think that that's where the power of life is. When we look at all the greats who came before us, you know, we honor them and we have so much respect for them because they say, hey, life really isn't about me. You know, how can I enhance the lives of other people? And I know that's what you are in your Rotary Club is all about. How can we give back? How can we help enhance the lives of other people? And I believe that when we understand their stories and their cultures and where they come from, whether it was a suburban or a rural area or urban area, we can connect more with their hearts, and then we can make this world a much better place. And so I believe that. I believe that light illuminates most in darkness. And I want to just let everybody watching this know, you know, you're here for a reason. You've been born for a reason. Greatness is upon you. There's nothing that you can accomplish. But I believe that when we say, hey, I want to be the best human I can be, that's when the world becomes its absolute best.
Wonderful message. Thank you very much. And to all of our guests and our members, we will enjoy seeing you next week. Take care.